America lost in 1942. America was losing again in 1944. Both times, one man saved it. The problem? He was drunk. He was violent. And America hated him for it. This is the story of General George S. Patton, the drunk general who saved America twice. But here's the strange part. The same man who saved thousands of lives was also the man many believed should never have been in command at all. Because Patton wasn't just aggressive, he was dangerous. And before this story ends, you'll have to decide something yourself. Was he a hero? Or just a man the war forced America to trust? Patton was not like other generals. Most generals stayed far behind the front lines, safe, calm, calculated. They gave orders from maps, from quiet rooms, from places where war felt distant. Patton hated that. He believed a general should be seen, not imagined. Seen. So he made himself impossible to ignore. He stood where artillery landed. He walked where tanks burned. He moved toward danger, not away from it. He wore a helmet so polished, it reflected sunlight across the battlefield. Snipers could see him. He didn't care. Because fear was something Patton refused to show. He carried 2 pearl-handled revolvers. Not because he needed them, because they sent a message. Everything about him was intentional. The way he walked, the way he spoke, the way he stared directly into his soldiers' eyes. To Patton, war wasn't just about victory. It was about dominance. If his men believed he was fearless, they would become fearless. If the enemy believed he was unstoppable, they would break faster. But that mindset came with a cost. Patton wasn't just intense. He was explosive. He insulted officers. He humiliated soldiers. He demanded perfection in the middle of chaos. Other generals inspired loyalty. Patton inspired pressure. And pressure creates results. The press hated him. Politicians feared him. Even his allies didn't fully trust him. But when things collapsed, when the battlefield started falling apart, there was only one name people said: Patton. And in 1943, everything was collapsing. North Africa, America's first major fight against the German army. And it was going terribly wrong. At Kasserine Pass, the battlefield turned into chaos. American soldiers were inexperienced, unprepared, overwhelmed. The German forces, led by Erwin Rommel, moved with speed and precision. Rommel didn't just attack. He predicted. And every prediction worked. American lines didn't bend. They broke. Soldiers ran. They abandoned weapons. They left tanks behind. Entire units disappeared into the desert. This wasn't retreat. This was collapse. 3 days. That's all it took. 3 days to lose thousands of men. 3 days to lose miles of ground. 3 days to lose confidence. And once an army loses confidence, it loses everything. But the real problem wasn't just the enemy. It was leadership. General Fredendall, the man in charge, was nowhere near the front lines. He built a massive underground headquarters, far from the battlefield. While soldiers fought and died, he sat in safety, sending orders through long chains of command. He didn't see the chaos. He didn't feel the pressure. He didn't understand the collapse. And because of that, he couldn't stop it. Back in Washington, panic started to grow. Reports were brutal. Disorganized retreats, heavy casualties, lost equipment. America wasn't just losing. It looked weak. Something had to change. Fast. So they made a decision. A risky one. They called Patton. Now here's where the story changes. Because what happened next didn't feel like leadership. It felt like shock therapy. When Patton arrived, he didn't observe. He acted. On day 1, he fired officers. Publicly. Men with rank. Men with experience. Gone. Because to Patton, failure didn't need explanation. It needed replacement. On day 2, he attacked something unexpected. His own army. He walked through camp before sunrise. What he saw made him furious. Unshaven soldiers, dirty uniforms, low morale, men who already looked defeated. Patton exploded. From now on, you will shave every day. You will wear proper uniforms. You will stand like soldiers. Because appearance was not about looks. It was about identity. If a soldier looked weak, he believed he was weak. And if he believed that, He would fight like it. Patton refused to let that happen. Then came day 3. The speech. Thousands of soldiers gathered. Tired, frustrated, broken, and Patton stood in front of them. Not calm, not controlled, explosive. He didn't comfort them. He didn't soften the truth. He hit them with it. No bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. He won it by making the other poor dumb bastard die for his. Silence. Then something changed. Because for the first time, someone spoke to them like fighters, not victims. And that moment rebuilt something inside them. But here's what most people don't understand. This wasn't motivation. This was transformation. And it worked. But Patton knew something else. That armies don't win just because of speeches. They win because of discipline. And his men had none of it. So he made new rules. Rules that seemed insane at the time, but saved thousands of lives later. Rule number 1. No man leaves his post, ever. If you run, you get shot. If you stay, you might live. Rule number 2. Every soldier carries his weapon. Every single day. Even in camp. Even while eating. Because Patton said, the Germans don't schedule their attacks. So why should we schedule our readiness? Rule number 3. Salute every officer. Shave every day. Boots polished. Uniform clean. His men hated it. They called him crazy. They said he cared more about appearance than lives. But Patton had a different reason. He said, when you look like a soldier, you start thinking like a soldier. When you act like a soldier, you start fighting like a soldier. And when you fight like a soldier, you stop dying like a civilian. It was brutal. It was harsh. But it worked. Within 1 week, morale went up. Desertions stopped. Men started standing taller. Because discipline isn't punishment. It's preparation. And Patton was preparing them for something far worse than they had seen before. Patton didn't just fix the army. He rebuilt its identity. And that was the first time. He saved America. But the second time was far more dangerous. Because in 1944, the war should have been won. But instead, it almost collapsed again. And this time, even Patton wasn't supposed to be there. Because by then, America had a problem with him. A serious one. He had slapped his own soldiers. Called them cowards. Publicly humiliated them in hospitals. The media exploded. Politicians were furious. Patton wasn't seen as a hero anymore. He was a liability. So when the Allies prepared for the invasion of Europe, Patton wasn't given command of the main force. Instead, he was used as a decoy, a fake army, fake tanks, fake radio signals, all designed to trick Germany into thinking the invasion would happen somewhere else. And it worked. German generals believed it. They moved divisions. They fortified the wrong beaches. But while the real invasion happened in Normandy, Patton waited, and waited, and waited. Because the one man who moved faster than anyone was being held back. While Patton sat on the sidelines, the Allies were planning something bigger, the invasion of Europe, D-Day. But there was one problem. Germany was expecting it, so they needed a trick, a big one. And the man they chose to be the trick was Patton. Because if the Germans saw Patton was leading an army, they would believe it. So they created a fake army, called it FUSAG, the First United States Army Group, and Patton was made the commander. But it was all lies. Inflatable tanks, wooden airplanes, fake radio traffic, even actors dressed as soldiers, driving trucks in circles to kick up dust. All of it, to make Germany think the invasion would hit Calais, not Normandy. And it worked. German generals moved their best divisions, their best tanks, all to the wrong place, while the real invasion happened somewhere else. But here's the painful part for Patton. The greatest deception of the war. And he wasn't allowed to fight in it. He was bait. A weapon used without being fired. For months he waited, training men who didn't exist, commanding an army made of rubber. And every day he got angrier. Because Patton wasn't built to sit still. He was built to attack. And when the call finally came, he was ready to explode. And just when everyone thought Patton's job was over, America needed him one last time. But what people don't realize is, this wasn't the last time. America needed Patton, because what happened next was bigger, more dangerous, and far more important. And what happened next is the reason. This man didn't just save America once, he saved it twice. December 1944. Winter. Europe? The war was almost over. At least, that's what everyone believed. Germany was collapsing. Supplies were running low. Cities were falling. The Allies were pushing forward from all sides. Victory felt close. Too close. And that's exactly when Germany did something unexpected. They attacked. Not a small attack. Not a desperate push. A massive coordinated assault through the Ardennes forest. Thousands of troops. Hundreds of tanks. Moving fast. Through terrain the Allies thought was impossible to cross. It was sudden, violent, and completely unexpected. American lines didn't just bend, they shattered. Communication broke. Units were surrounded. Entire divisions were cut off. And in the middle of it all, one location became the center of everything. Bastogne, a small town, but a critical one. Roads from every direction passed through it. Control Bastogne, and you control movement across the entire region. So the Germans surrounded it. Inside the town, American soldiers were trapped. No food, limited ammunition, freezing temperatures, and no clear way out. The Germans sent a message: surrender. The American response? One word: no. It was bold, but it was also dangerous, because without help, they wouldn't survive. And here's where things became critical, because the nearest army, the only force capable of reaching Bastogne in time, was led by one man, Patton. There was just one problem. He was facing the wrong direction. His entire army was positioned to attack somewhere else. To reach Bastogne, he would have to do something almost impossible: turn his entire army, in the middle of winter, in the middle of war, and move over 100 miles, through chaos, faster than the enemy expected. Most generals wouldn't even consider it. It was too risky, too complex, too dangerous. But Patton didn't think like most generals. When he was asked how long it would take, he didn't hesitate. 3 days. Other commanders were shocked. 3 days? In those conditions? With that distance? It sounded impossible. But Patton had already done something unusual. Before the attack even happened, he had planned for it. Because he believed something simple: the enemy always has one last move. So while others celebrated early victory, Patton prepared for the worst. And now, that preparation was about to save thousands of lives. He gave the order: turn the army, move immediately. No delays, no hesitation. Soldiers moved through snow, through ice, through roads barely usable. Tanks froze. Engines struggled. Visibility dropped. But they kept moving, because Patton pushed them, harder than ever before. No stopping. No excuses, because every hour mattered. Inside Bastogne, time was running out. And if Patton failed, those soldiers were finished. But Patton didn't fail. 3 days later, his forces broke through German lines. The siege was shattered. The trapped soldiers were saved. And just like that, the momentum of the entire German attack collapsed. That was the turning point, not just of the battle, but of the war in Europe. And once again, when everything was falling apart, when the situation looked impossible, there was only one man who could move fast enough and think aggressively enough to change the outcome: Patton. That was the second time he saved America. But here's the question that still divides people today. Was he a hero, or was he simply a man who was too dangerous to ignore when everything was on the line? Because in the end, America didn't trust Patton. It needed him.